All right, we are back and live and in action. We are in Jeremiah chapter 7. And when you have those texts that have so much and they're so loaded and they're so packed and there's grammar stuff and there's historical. This is one of those particular texts. And so we're going to flow with the Ruach. I have so many different things going. I've had so much mental input from a lot of directions, and there's some really fruitful portions of this text that I feel like I want to grab onto, but I'm going to let it flow. We're going to see what Yah wants us to get from this. So in a live by Miss Lauren Hill, she said, the gift of the music, the gift of the teaching, the gift of the speaking is that everybody hears it and it meets them exactly where they are. And I'm hoping that that is the outcome of today, because I have so much that I'm sitting with in this particular text. And I mean, we know Jeremiah, right? He's called the weeping prophet for a reason, because these concepts and this understanding is heavy. But what I'm warring with internally, just to be completely transparent, is the human condition, the human heart, the human experience, and not just from those who know, but for also those who say they know, but really don't know. That is really, really, really heavy upon me. So just to give you a little background. So Jeremiah, who, remember, he's still young. He's not even pushing 40 yet. That's grown man status in the Hebraic culture, kind of mind frame. He's still young. He is still very much a young man. He's learning, he's growing, and just like in, biblical fashion, as it allows the development of the prophet, of the person, the story, we feel those growing pains. And I don't know if you all feel them, but I feel them. And I feel the transparency that Yah has permitted us to have a window into as we're looking at the people and the historical breakdown of why they're there. So I think I remember mentioning in the beginning, but if I didn't, I want to mention this again. So remember the prophet Zephaniah. If you don't know the book of Zephaniah, go read it, because Zephaniah is a contemporary of Jeremiah. What a contemporary means is they were prophesying at the same exact time. They were both prophets to the people at the same time. It's really interesting because Zephaniah's book has a lot about the great and awful day of Yah. So this final judgment piece, as well as judgment to the nations and how everyone will be judged. And it also focuses on some very, very key messianic portions. And this is very interesting to me as I'm even processing it now, where you had two prophets prophesying at the same time to the same end, but from two different, essentially, vantage points, but with the issue being the same amongst the people. And the issue amongst the people that is very, very, very similar to where we sit today is they did not understand the word and the unpacking of it. And so a lot of things seem to go over their heads and not penetrate their hearts, which was detrimental not only to the individual, but to the nation as a whole. And they had already seen the destruction. They had literal, hands-on understanding of what happened to Israel. And we're going to tap on something today, which is what happened in Shiloh. People normally say Shiloh, but it's actually Shiloh. What happened in Shiloh during the time of Eli, right? Eli. And it taps on, we're going to tap into that a little bit today. We're going to look at what it looks like in modern worship. I'm going to frame it in modern worship, but I'm going to bring it personal too. What it looks like to have a heart that is obstinate, which is just a very, 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 very difficult place to be, not only watching it, but also being the person that is it as well. And we see the heart of Yah literally through it all. We're going to look at that. And we're also going to look at some messianic points and also some just general doctrinal points that people often look for in other books. But because we don't read the Bible or read the scripture, read the text, and let it speak to us, and we normally go to it looking for things, a lot of times we miss some of these very, very, very significant things because we don't read the books with the lens of, I'm listening for Yah's voice everywhere he speaks. It's very interesting because in the Brit Kadashah, or the New Testament, they do this really cool thing in like King James Bibles, and they put all of the words of Hamashiach in red. But it would be so cool if we had all of the times that Yah spoke directly to his people in the Old Testament is read, so that you carry that thread that those words and the words that are on the other side of the covenant are the same exact words and carry the same exact weight. Because when you hear his words and when you hear him speak, and as we like kind of zoom in on it, you'll be like, oh my goodness. Like he's literally, Yah is literally, like we know, Hamashiach is literally telling us and unpacking what was meant by certain commandments, what was meant by certain, things that were put in place during the Levitical period and the Mosaic law. And as he's explaining them, we zero in on it. In Jeremiah this week, he's going to zero in on some things, and you're going to be like, why was this not in red? Why was this not like jumping out at me? And it might be somebody out there might be like, you know what? That's a good idea. I'm going to put all the words of Yah. When it says, thus saith Yah, just put them in red, right? It'd be a thing. You don't even have to give me credit. Just do it so I can use it too. All right. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to jump in this week. We're going to really go line by line. You'll see me turning a lot because I have like three outlines in front of me. Because as I was just studying, I kind of was seeing more stuff. So I want to make sure I touch on those things. If I pause, it's just because I'm making sure that I'm keeping my pace with what I'm talking about as well. All right, Jeremiah, Yirmiyahu, chapter 7. How's that look on you guys' side? Does it look good? Look good. Actually, let me go make it full screen. Can you see it still? Or do I need to? Okay, excellent, excellent, excellent. The word that came to Jeremiah from Yah saying, so we want them red parts, by the way, stand in the gate of Yah's house and proclaim there this word and say, hear the word of Yah, all ye of Judah that enter in at the gates to worship Yah. And immediately it's heavy, like just that fast. Jeremiah, we've seen Jeremiah's journey, right? He starts off and Yah says, go preach to Israel that's afar off. You're like, okay. And he's like, okay, now come back. Now preach in the streets. Okay, now come back. Now preach to your brethren. And now he has him literally preaching at the gate of Yah's house. This is heavy because it's the place where the preaching should already be. He should have a bunch of people saying the same thing that he's saying. So Yah sending him to his house, to Yah's house where the word should be proclaimed, and saying, now proclaim the word, means that the house was devoid of the word. We've already covered in previous weeks, but they went through a reformation and the reformation failed. It was a failed reformation because it did not reach their hearts and there wasn't true turning of the people. You had a righteous king, you had righteous people, but the nation didn't turn. So the trajectory of destruction is still right on track, right on track. That's why he's still preaching. It would be a waste of time, and Yah wastes nobody's time. He understands the importance of and the fragility of the human experience in that we don't have a lot of time. So Yah's not going to have somebody do something unless that is very, very pertinent, very, very important, and the results that were desired from before had not been reached. So he tells Jeremiah to stand at the gate. So at the gate, that means as people are coming in, before you even reach the house, and I'm going to tell you why I told him to stand at the gate. Before they even reach the house, get them before they get in. And he tells them to hear the word of Yah, almost as if when they got through the gates, they weren't about to hear the word of Yah. I don't know, right? To hear the word of Yah, all ye of Yehuda. And he says that enter into the gates to worship Yah. So when you enter into the gates, it was already known that your intention was to worship. That is why the place was set up. It was set up as a place of worship. Now I don't know if we've covered this word for worship, but the word for worship in this particular text here, you have the word hava, right? It's like, and it says, where is it? It means to bow down, means to like give reference. So this is a little different. We have a word called shakha, right? And it's another word for to bow down. So he's like, before you go in here, and let me just click on it so we can see it together. Before you go in here to do honor, to do homage, and to submit yourselves to Yah, we need to talk about something. We need to talk about something before this happens. And here's the conversation, how it's going to go. Thus saith Yah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, amend your ways and your doings, and I will cause you to dwell in this place. So we know already that Yah said there's a seething pot coming. This nation's getting ready to come down. They're going to tear up everything because you guys are wicked. He's uncovered things. He's talked about the relationship between them. He's talked about the heart. He's talked about their uncircumcised ears. He has literally laid it down. And here he is again, Jeremiah, proclaiming. This is not some like, I think you should really listen to what I'm saying. No, he would have been what we probably would have considered one of these like crazy loud people with the speakers, like the end of the world is coming. Repent for the, like he was there and he had something to say. They knew who he was. And guess what? You're going to find out that they also knew he was right. They just didn't care. So he says, proclaim there this word. And to all the people who enter the gates to worship, they had an intention to worship. See, we get it all messed up. We think when people are missing the mark on their worship, that they're not intending to worship. So the issue was they came to worship, but they came to worship their way. And so he's setting the plumb line. He's setting the standard back in place. You said you're entering these gates to worship, yeah, but he's getting ready to literally call them to the table. Thus saith Yah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel. Can you imagine that, hearing that, like Yah Zavaot, which is Yah, the commander of the hosts, the commander of the armies, the commanders over everything. So you see him there, he's showing Yah in two forms. Yah, who's in control of everything and who has the right and can destroy whatever he wants because he's sovereign and he's right and he's just. But also, he's the Elohim and the power of Israel. This is not somebody you want against you. That's kind of what that means. He's saying to them, amend your ways and your doings, and I will cause you to dwell in this place. He was like, I will stay my hand because what's coming to you is from me, and it couldn't happen without me. I'll tell myself to stand down if you would amend your ways and your doings, amend the direction you're going and how you're doing things. Verse 4, trust ye not in lying words. Here you go. He's at the gate. And before they get in, he's like, don't get in here and start listening to these lies you're about to hear. Because where are the lies coming from? Right? They're getting ready to go to worship. They're getting ready to hear words. And Jeremiah is at the gate saying, let me just tell you before you get in here, trust not these lying words. Before they walk in, he's priming the pump. He's trying to frame their mind so that their ears that we know are plugged and their hearts that we know are fat can shed this and be like, maybe I should listen and see if they're lying to me. He's putting them on game before they even lie to you. Let me tell you, as you're passing by, thus saith Yah, trust not these lying words that's coming from this house, saying, the temple of Yah, the temple of Yah, the temple of Yah are these. This is twofold. This is twofold. The temple of Yah, the temple of Yah, the temple of Yah are these. It is theorized that this message that Jeremiah is giving at the gates is during a feast day, where lots of people are getting ready to come in and bring their sacrifices and offerings, hoping to appease Yah or do their rite during the Moedim, go through the ritual practice. I'm using all those words because that's exactly what they were doing. And he's like, and you're swearing by this place. But what Yah's getting ready to frame, that's why he's gonna mention Shiloh, because he's gonna say, remember a time when there was a tabernacle and there was an Ark of the Covenant in it, and remember what I did? So Jeremiah is framing this conversation saying, you're saying, we got this temple here. We got this temple here. As long as this temple is here, then guess what? Y'all gonna fall in line. Not we gonna fall in line. Y'all's not gonna let anything happen to this temple. And look, we're still here worshiping, and he's still accepting our sacrifices because they have their brain has become so convoluted that the pagan God and Yah are equal. And Yah should be happy. Look at how this temple is flourishing and we're bringing all these sacrifices and everybody just loves this place. The temple of Yah, the temple of Yah, the temple of Yah are these. This is what it is. He said, that's a lie. I'll put it like this. People say this. I go to service. I go to church. I'm good. That's what people are saying. Look, we're here. We're at the temple. How can we be wrong and we're at the temple? How can we be failing when we're coming to worship? Clearly, we're better than all the people that are not coming. Y'all should be happy that I'm showing up at all. It's some people that like almost as if you're nothing, because that's what it is to Yah when it's not what he asked for. Almost as if he should be happy. Look at this. We doing it, aren't we? A writer said that men may perform the most sacred rites, yet perpetuate the grossest crimes. You have people who are coming to bow down before men, but have no thought to convert their corrupt hearts. It has become something to do. Verse 5 says, for if ye thoroughly amend your ways and your doings, and if you thoroughly execute judgment between a man and his neighbor, and if ye oppress not the stranger, there's a little doctrinal piece, it's a nugget, we'll get back to that, the fatherless and the widow, and shed not innocent blood in this place, neither walk after other gods to your own hurt, then will I cause you to dwell in this place, in the land that I gave to your fathers forever and ever. Let's just roll back a little bit. The word that jumped out to me is if ye thoroughly amend your ways, and if you thoroughly execute judgment. The word here, thoroughly, is an English translation that you lose the meaning. Thoroughly is not there. It's actually what we have in Hebrew called a repetition or emphasis. So actually it's the same word said twice, just in two different forms. And it literally is a command. It's a command of action, and it's emphasized because of its importance. So in English, we would say, if you amend, you're amending. And if you do, you're doing. And if you execute, you're executing. Meaning you're not doing what you said you're doing. You're not executing what you say you're executing. And you're not amending what you said you amended. That's how it would be in English. And so Jeremiah, imagine him yelling out. You have to keep that in your mind because he's not whispering. at the temple was the center of worship for the people, which meant that there was all this going on, right? Because they're bringing live animals, right? People are coming, they're walking. So he is literally yelling so that his voice can be heard. This is literally passionate, loud talk. And he's literally saying, you're not doing what you said you are doing. You're not executing what you said you're executing. And you're not changing your ways like you said you were. And they knew exactly what he was talking about. Talk about feeling red. Even if you didn't even know exactly what he was talking about, you know you have something, even like us, that you're not doing the way you said you was going to do it. Somebody said, how's your diet going? You'd be like, If they said you ain't dieting like you said you was dieting, you ain't exercising like you said you was exercising, you would feel red. Like, I feel like you're coming for me. I feel like you're coming. That's how that felt. He's yelling it out. And he calls out some very specific things so people can't play dumb, because it is the normal human way to just play stupid. So he's like, what do you mean by amend your ways? What do you mean by do your doings? What do you mean by execute judgment? Yah was like, this part. You're oppressing strangers. You're oppressing the fatherless. You're oppressing the widow. You're shedding innocent blood. You're walking after other gods, and it's literally destroying your life. That's what he's saying. He's like, no, this is what you're doing. I see it. I see what you're doing. Nothing is hidden from me. And you're choosing your choices. And you're doing these doings on purpose. And when you were called to repentance, you held on to things. You didn't let it go. You didn't go through the process. Like, you're going through these feast days and you're doing the practices of them, but you're still carrying away the same raggedy version of yourself. So in English, it's like you didn't thoroughly amend your ways. You did a little bit. He's like, I see it. You did a little bit. You didn't thoroughly do what you were supposed to do. And you know what judgment is, because in the Hebrew language, there is no room left to not know what he's talking about. So it's even more painfully comical that Yah literally says, let me tell you what you're doing. Because the word told you what you were doing. Amen told you what you were doing. Do, asa, to actually do, lay your hands to and actually complete a task, tells you what it is. Shafet, judgment, judging the words of somebody's mouth and their actions to completion, watching the whole thing, seeing what the end result is so that you can be a proper judge. You know what I'm talking about, because your language literally gives you the verbal root of what that is and then tells you how you're supposed to execute it. But because I know you want to play dumb, here it is. Here are all the ways. And he said, I'm going to point them out to you, because what you should do is turn around and go home right now and fix it, because you have no business coming to worship with this level of infraction. It doesn't work. He's like, these goats and these lambs and these rams and these turtle doves and these drink offerings and these meat offerings, that's the grain offerings, they mean nothing to me. I'm not accepting them. Y'all just doing stuff to be doing it, but you're not doing thoroughly. He says, but if you stop it, literally, I will let you dwell in this place forever. If you do the things you said you would do to dwell in this place forever. I'm not asking for anything new. And guess what? If you look at the list, like killing folks, oppressing the stranger, which I told you not to do, said, do not oppress the stranger. Remember that you were a slave in Egypt. Remember that you were without a home. So don't do people like that. Don't treat people the way that other people treat you. Don't wait for your chance to be the oppressor too. which is unfortunate because when I look across Israel right now, when I look across our nation, many people are waiting for their opportunity to be the oppressor, and it comes out in the vileness of their speech toward other nations, when our whole purpose as a people is to be a light to the world, a light attracting people in because it's so dark. And if I just walk toward that, then I have the opportunity to be redeemed, to be saved, and to be brought in and to be safe, because this world is scary and there's no fixing this world. I hope I did burst somebody's bubble. Our job is not to repair this world. It's to be repaired so that we can walk with people as they're repaired, because guess what? Judgment is coming. This place is being destroyed. It has an end time. And we talked about the computer program. It has an end time and a beginning time. This thing is going to wrap up. And you have people literally sitting around like that's a game. And so you have people wondering, oh, the world is such a terrible place, and why would God allow this? And Yah's like, I'm not allowing anything. It has an expiration date. This has an expiration date. And because this has an expiration date, then I have an expectation of my elect to not push people away, but to draw them in to the camp of safety, to show them what it looks like to serve the living Elohim. Because how unfair. Talk about Zephaniah, right? How unfair would it be to have an expiration date on this world and then have a period of time where all nations have to serve Yah, but they didn't get an opportunity to get in before the expiration date? That makes an unjust Elohim. Makes an unjust Elohim. So he's like, you're misrepresenting me. And when you treat the fatherless that way, you're misrepresenting me. And when you treat the widow a certain way, you're misrepresenting me. And when you shed innocent blood, you're misrepresenting me. So then I have to chastise you. We do it to our own children. Don't go out in the world and misrepresent what I stand for at home. See, because I don't have the ability to defend myself when you go and act a butt at school, or when you go act a butt out in the world. Somebody's going to think that I taught you to be that way. And then I'm going to have to embarrass you in front of them for my name's sake. Verse 8. Behold, still talking, you trust in lying words that can't profit. Ouch. Ouch. He was like, you can't take lies to the bank and cash them. So it literally should run in your mind all the way back to Bereshit, all the way back to the adversary in the garden. What do lies do? Lies debit a person's truth account. Because we have truth as we follow Yah. And when people lie, they don't just lie, but they lie to remove something from you and transfer it to themselves. Whether it's wealth, whether it's your faith, whether it's who you depend on, they lie to you. And now you stop trusting in your source and you start believing in them. Says you trust in lying words and there's no benefit to you because of them. Verse 9, he goes on, he says, will you continue to steal and commit adultery and swear falsely? So everybody's like, okay, with that, okay, we stealing, murdering, breaking all the 10 commandments. Like, these are our marriage vows, and you're breaking just the basic stuff. You've gotten so bad that you don't even have sense enough to not even do the basic stuff. This is elementary. This is stuff you should never do. He says, commit adultery, swear falsely, and then he just kind of give like a little, oh, and you didn't think I knew? And burn incense unto Baal, and walk after other Elohims whom you knew not. He was like, y'all went looking for stuff that wasn't even on your radar. And he says, and this part right here, and this part has been on my mind all week long, like this one part. He says, and then come and stand before me in this house. It's not that they had stolen or they had committed murder or like they had committed adultery and they were coming to repent for it. He's like, no. Y'all coming and y'all doing it. You're practicing it. You're practicing it. There is a difference. There is a difference between a sinner and a practicer of sin. There is a difference between a person that aims at a target and misses they aimed with the intention to strike and miss the mark, but hit somewhere, versus a person that intentionally turns and shoots in the opposite direction of the target. There is a difference. And I'm going to tell you this because most people don't like this, because we like to still operate in these religious constructs that tell us that some sins are bigger than others and the consequences of some are, higher than others. I'm going to tell you this. The reason why Yah says that the person under the tree eating the swine's flesh and all the abominations and the mice and the blah, 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 blah are going to go to, and we'll get to this, Gehenna is what it calls, but it's Hinnon, is going to go to this place of refuse. The reason why Yah says that, literally, is because all practice of any sin is going to send you to hell. Period. If you practice eating unclean, knowing that it's wrong to eat that food, you're going to the refuse pile because you have a glitch and you have an obstinate heart and you literally are a worker of iniquity. In a small thing, that's why you literally don't have enough Yah consciousness in you to choose to trust the person who created the machine, which is your body, over yourself. You trust more in yourself than you trust in Yah. Same for a person who just becomes a liar, is a liar, not a person that lies and lied before. You practice lying, you're going to go to the refuse pile for that because you refuse to be corrected. You refuse to look at yourself. A person who refuses to let Yah do the work that he intends to do in this life for you, you go to the refuse pile because you have become useless. You have chosen to be useless. It's the same issue. It's a condition of the heart that says, I know better than my maker. And that's the problem. That's the problem. And he says, and you know this about yourself, yet you stand before me in this house, continue, which is called by my name. And you say this, we are delivered to do all these abominations. And I don't think I have in the past maybe 5 years just tapped in on Christianity, but today I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it on this particular verse right here, because this is literally what every single person who is under a strong delusion by a misreading and a misrepresentation of the love of Yah in the Brit Kadashah, this is what their words sound like. When a person says you cannot break Torah, you have to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. You cannot, under any circumstances, do the practices to other Elohim because I did not put it in your mind to even know these gods. You were only supposed to know me. You cannot keep doing Christmas and Easter. Why? Because I never even wanted you to know these gods from the beginning. That was not my intention for you. So you cannot later adopt it and then pretend like it's okay under the guise of some redemptive work that frees you to do these things. It never came to my mind for you to separate yourself to other gods or to even other cultural practices outside of the cultural practices that I've established that work to amend the relationship between me and you so that I don't have to throw your raggedy behind in the refuse pile. But then you come into my house with the words and the songs and the practices of these other L's on your lips. And you say in that house, thank you, Jesus, now that I have freedom in Christ, and I can do these things because I am no longer under the law. It wasn't about the law to begin with. You missed it. It wasn't even about that to begin with. It was about a personal relationship with a living Elohim who chose us out of all the nations and then chose the nations to then join in to literally live the way designed, so that when the clock runs out and when the end of the program comes, you're found with something in you, and that is the literal living, breathing Elohim who has worked his image in you. And when he pulls away the flesh, when he pulls away the body that is temporary, he finds something long-term. But you know what we do? Come in the house and we say, look, I'm in the house of the Lord. Look at me in the house of the Lord, praising him, singing songs, crying with hands raised. And we're crying because we know that we're unworthy, but we leave there because a lying preacher tells us these particular words and we believe it. We leave there believing that we are delivered to leave from the house of Elohim to continue to do abominations. It's dangerous. Jeremiah is livid. Jeremiah is heartbroken because literally that's what people believe. I come here and get my Holy Ghost fill and leave this place, and I'm delivered to do all the things. When we talked about abomination, right? I'm delivered to continue living the way that I'm living. And the things that I don't want to change, I'll just say that Jesus came and paid it all for these things. I'm free to continually offend my lover by giving my lover what he didn't ask for and refusing to be transformed into his image. I don't know if we talked about this last week. It's been on my mind, but I'm going to say it again if I haven't. The idea of love is to be transformed into the likeness and image of the other person. Is love your neighbor as yourself, right? If I love myself, I'm going to love you that way. I'm going to think of you that way. But it's deeper because we're supposed to be transformed into the image and likeness of Yah, which means that we should love them like Yah loves them. And we should seek to transform them into the likeness and image of Yah. So what Jeremiah is very, very, very undone about is that you hate the people because you want to transform them into refuse and abomination instead of transforming them into the likeness and image of Elohim, because that is love. That's true love. That's real love. Yah is saying, see, the problem is you don't love me, because if you love me, you'd want to eat like I eat, and you'd want to worship like I worship, and you'd want to be where I am, and you'd want to show up on the days where I show up. You wouldn't want to create your own things and your own practices because you love me and you want to be wherever I am. You hopping in the car when I pull off. Where are we going? Nowhere. To the tool store. I'm coming. Yeah, I was like, you don't even want to come with me and learn why I am the way I am. The Elohim, who is infinite and limitless and cannot be known, is offering an opportunity for us to know him through the practices. And we say, oh, no. I'm going to learn you through Christmas. I'm going to learn you through Easter. I'm going to learn you through Ash Wednesday. I'm going to learn you through Lent. I'm going to learn you through all the made up things because I hate you. That's why. I hate the way you do things, but this looks fun. This looks easier. I can control this. I'm going to do it that way. And Yah is like, but I love you. Oh, well, you're cool, I guess, but you would be so much cooler if you were like Baal. You would be so much cooler if you were like, and I was like, dang, that hurts. So he says, you know what? You got a problem with this house? I thought you loved this house, right? He says, is this house, which is called by my name? He doesn't say, which is in my name. He says, called by my name. So y'all call the house according to me, but don't have nothing to do with me. Y'all didn't hijack the whole thing. He said, this house, which is called by my name, is become a den of robbers in your eyes. That's what y'all see this place as? Ooh, right? Behold, even I have seen it. Yah is like, look, I saw it. This should be in red, by the way. But go ye now unto my place, which is in Shiloh. So remember, we used to know our history. So when a person said Shiloh, everybody already knew. Most of you know Shiloh from this, Ichabod, and the spirit of Yah has left the place. And Eli falls and he breaks his neck because he's heavy. Remember Second Samuel chapter 2, I believe, or First Samuel chapter 2. Second Samuel, First Samuel. I got to look at my notes. And he says, you had Phineas, remember that? And they took the Ark of the Covenant out to battle, and the Philistines took it. And everybody was like, this is the worst thing that can ever happen. How could this happen here? We were trying to do something to Yah. We were trying to help ourselves by taking the Ark of the Covenant, which Yah did not tell you to do. If you guys do not remember that, please go back to the Samuel series. I did a whole thing on it. They took the Ark of the Covenant outside of the Holy of Holies and took it out to battle, just to give you a little kickback. And when they took it out the battle, the Philistines said, I've never seen them do that before. They were even shocked by how Israel had rejected Yah and done something outside of the practices that had been prescribed. They were like, oh no, wait, what? And they beat them because they tried to use Yah in Shiloh, which was a central place for almost 400 years where the tabernacle was. They tried to use Yah as a token. They tried to use the Ark of the Covenant like a token, like the other gods did. And Yah was like, oh, okay. Today y'all getting whooped. And guess what? So you'll know something about me. I'm going to let them take it because I'm not in that box. I'm bigger than that box. I cause my name to dwell here, but when you profane my name and you do and you act in disobedience, I will remove my presence from this place. I will remove my presence from you. So unfortunately, the blessings that people think they have is like skating on thin ice. The things that people think are held together are literally the adversary masking death. It's like spraying perfume on a dead body so you don't smell the stench and the decay, but you're dying. And in Shiloh, that very thing had happened. The system began breaking down. If you don't remember, they were keeping the fat. The priests were sleeping with the women. Same exact practices led to the destruction and the presence of Yah leaving. And it's interesting for Jeremiah to be giving this message because it was Samuel the prophet who was the only person that Yah was speaking to during that time. Everybody else was caught up in whatever they were doing. So Yah draws them back. That was a really, really bad time for Israel. He says, but go ye now into my place, which is in Shiloh, where I set my name at first. Remember that I actually set my name somewhere before this place, just in case y'all forgot. And see what I did to it for the wickedness of my people Israel. Historical account says that it was destroyed twice, first by the Philistines and then later by the Assyrians. Twice. It was torn down. And historical archaeological evidence still shows it. He said, I tore that place down. I treated it like refuse because of the wickedness of the people of Israel. So he's like, so how could you think I wasn't gonna, or I'm not gonna do this here? Verse 13. And now because you have done all these works, saith Yah, that should be in red. And I spake unto you, rising up early. He's like, before the noise and the clamor of the world got into your ears, I was whispering to you. I'm trying to talk to you in your dreams, when you wake up, before your brain get going, before anybody says something, I've been talking to you. See, we think that people have not heard Yah. So we try to speak, and we're speaking through a host of just clogged ears and scaled eyes. Yah was like, don't trip. I've been talking to him. I'm literally meeting people in their beds before they get up, pressing upon them. I'm literally meeting them in a place where I'm speaking and they get an anxiety, so they put headphones in their ears. Or they hurry up and turn something on, or they hurry up and turn on social media and try to get my voice out of their head because I'm pressing upon them. I'm squeezing in and making circumstances internally uncomfortable. I'm creating what we see with Saul, where he says he gave him an evil spirit from Yah. He created dysfunction in his mind and his heart, not so that he would end up crazy, so that he would feel that dysfunction cripple him in every way. And then he would turn back to the creator. He's like, I'm doing that to people. So I'm rising up early and shaking souls. And he said, but they heard not. The word here is Shema. They didn't listen intently to obey and do what I was saying. He said, and you are not going to be able to say I didn't call you. Many are called, few choose to answer the call. And it should turn your brain back. I love when when Yah allows the prophet to set a scene that's familiar, because the story of Samuel is very familiar. Remember, Samuel hears. Remember, he's a kid and he gets up and he goes to Eli and he's like, you called me? And he's like, I didn't call you. He goes again. He's like, you called me? He's like, I didn't call you. And he goes again. And Eli said, lay down and tell him, here I am. I'm not calling you, but someone is. Yah literally is still in the same way interjecting into the human experience. But because we are so unclean in our ways and so unwilling to transform, we shut down. I remember when I was younger, and even up into my adult age, I used to wake up in the middle of the night and I used to be terrified. You know why? Because I'm like, I knew Yah was trying to talk to me. And it made me uncomfortable. The dark made me uncomfortable, just laying there and just waiting. And it wasn't until I got to a point where I'm like, if the living Elohim is interjecting himself into my human experience, I would rather die in that moment than die in my sin. And so I remember the first time laying there, frightened in the dark, and literally saying, I have to be okay with being quiet, because I have to let Yah speak. And talk about the most terrifying experience ever. Just waiting. And it's just you, your thoughts, your vulnerability, and that darkness. See, we've been taught to fear darkness, or to fear this idea of quiet solitude, where Yah interjects when it's all quiet. We listen to things right up to it's time to go to bed, fill our mind with a bunch of things, and then wake up and Yah's like, I'll wake you up in the middle of the night, right after REM sleep, when your mind wipes itself clean. And after everything is processed, and I'll be like, and I'll just wait. Wait for you to look for me. And I'll wait. And I'll wait. And I'll wait. And see, we were not trained to know how to respond when Yah shows up. But if you really, really understood those moments when Yah says, I'm rising, before the sun gets up, before you have time to give glory to him when he rides on his chariot, thinking that that's what woke you up, I'm going to rise you up. And I'm going to sit and just wait. Wait for you to respond with, here I am. Wait for you to open your heart. Yeah, I was like, I'm doing that. I'm taking time out of the human experience and sitting in your room, trying to interject into your space. And he said, but you heard not, and I called you. I called you by name. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but the closest you will ever get to death is sleep. It's the one thing that you have zero control over. It's like a person putting you under anesthesia, but you still remember to breathe. You still remember to swallow. Your kidneys and all of your organs are still functioning. But if you go under anesthesia, you need an anesthesiologist to watch you. But when you go to sleep, who watches you and who wakes you up? The only one who can call you out of that experience is Yah. So when he calls you out of that experience, alert. He says, I called you, but you answered not. He says, so peep this. Therefore will I do unto this house, which is called by my name, wherein you trust, because you trust in the house, and unto the place which I gave to you and to your fathers, as I have done to Shiloh. I'm going to do to this place what I did to Shiloh. I'm going to remove my presence. I am going to remove you. I'm going to remove my hedge of protection, because unlike the prophet Samuel, who said, here I am, and lived a life amending his ways and walking with Yah, with his face to Yah's face, he said, y'all not like that. He said, so I will cast you out of my sight, and I will cast out all of your brethren, even the whole seed of Ephraim. And then Yah gets uncomfortable. He says to Jeremiah, therefore, don't even pray for this people. Neither lift up cry nor prayer for them. You don't remember a situation like that? Think back to Aaron, where he was like, look, don't even cry for them, because they brought this upon themselves. Neither make intercession to me, for I will not hear you. There's nothing more uncomfortable than that for me. To watch as a nation, as people, we watch it in our families as they make choices, and to know that our hands are tied, and that when we reach out to Yah, because of the heart condition of the person, they have to take the beating. They have to go through things. And Yah has said, I'm not listening. You just have to suffer through it. Jeremiah is going to, and is sitting and suffering through the consequences of the hard hearts. But the old people used to say, and I know this is what Yah isn't saying, but the old people say, a hard head make a soft behind. Because we know the heart of Yah has been established up until this point. Yah isn't seeking to have anybody perish, but maybe just the fear, maybe just the joy being taken, and the unbridled anxiety, and the lashing, and the removal from the place of comfort will cause the heart to soften so that the work can be done. Verse 17, seest thou not what they do in the cities of Judah? He was like, because I already know how people gonna go. Why would Yah do that? Why would he even create man if he was gonna do that? There's a beginning and an end. No suffering is forever, first of all. And there's choice. Seest thou not what they do in the cities? What they do. What they do. So he was like, because I already know. Y'all all torn up because of this. Jeremiah gonna call it, he said, the children gather wood, and the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead their dough to make cakes to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto other gods. He said, no. This is generational, and everybody's participating. Everybody is the cause of the sin. Everybody is the cause of the destruction, and no person in Yah's eyes is exempt from the judgment. Because you see, the children, let's just do it in reverse. I'm doing it in reverse. The women want to cook cakes. So she sent her husband out to gather wood. I'm sorry. So she sends her husband to kindle the fire. And the father says, go get me the wood because your mama want to bake cakes. The whole situation is out of order because the man is in the middle. A passive activist for abominations. The children are just doing what children do. You can get a child not to do anything. Parents have power, period. Children only do what they're allowed to do. They don't have power. They don't have control. It's almost like when people say, when a person who is oppressed is an oppressor. How can a person who is oppressed be an oppressor when I don't have the power or the privilege to oppress you back? Same thing for a child. The child is an innocent bystander in the crossfire of the parent's own convoluted construction. The mom has an agenda. The daddy don't want no smoke. And the children just doing what children do. So because the children went out to gather the wood, they are trained to become refuse. And because the father kindled the fire, he's creating a similar experience for what their end result will be. And the mom just makes it all better because she want to bake cakes. She's going to smooth it over and make it not look as bad as it really is. But these same parents, these same wicked parents in this passage, will take that same child and put them on the fire on the hands of Moloch. Just watch and wait for it. They bake cakes to the queen of heaven and pour out drink offerings unto other gods. He said, but y'all show up to the temple and you do to Yah what you want to do, but then you do to the other gods exactly what they asked for. You know all their practices. You know how to deck the tree. A person ain't gonna walk in your house and not know it's Christmas. They're not gonna walk in your house and not know it's Easter because you got all of the intricate things that signify that you are worshiping that God, but you have none of the things that signify that you're worshiping the Elohim of heaven and earth. He says they do it so they can provoke me to anger. They do it and they frustrate me. They do it and they anthropomorphically, that is giving an attribute to a spirit that is seen in man. They make my nostrils flare and they make my breathing heavy and they grieve my heart because they know, like they know better. And it would be one thing if it was just them, but they brought their children into it too. So Yah says, do they provoke me to anger? Like they really try to make me? Like, are they that dumb? Do they? But he said, but guess what? I got something better. Do not they provoke themselves to the confusion of their own faces? He said, you know what? Yes, it's frustrating. But you know what's more frustrating? How confused they're going to be when I don't show up. That is what's frustrating. What they're doing is putting me against them, and I'm all they got. So Yah says, therefore, thus saith Yah Elohim, behold, Hine, my anger and my fury shall be poured out upon this place. Remember, he's teaching at the tabernacle. I don't know if y'all, we getting ready to turn the block, and I hope you see it. I had a mentor one time. He said, a shadow of a thing to come is not something that you don't know, right? If you were walking down the street and you saw a shadow of something that you were going to actually see, the shadow should look like the thing you're going to see. Peep this. He says, I'm going to pour out my anger upon this place. I'm going to pour out my anger upon the temple. I'm going to pour out my anger upon the physical representation of what's supposed to be a place that represents me. And I'm going to do it in front of you because I'm hoping it breaks your heart. He said, I'm going to pour out my anger upon this place, this temple. This is Jeremiah talking in front of the temple. Imagine hearing that the temple you're looking at, this is still Solomon's temple, by the way, the beautiful one. He's like, imagine hearing that Yah is going to destroy this temple. He says, not only the temple, but upon man and upon these animals and the fields and the trees and upon the fruit on the ground, and it shall burn and shall not be quenched. Thus saith Yah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, put your burnt offerings unto your sacrifices and eat flesh. And go ahead. Because that's all you're doing. You cooking. You're not worshiping. He's literally saying this. I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm like, my mind is like in a mental picture. He's saying this at the gate. You getting ready to think you going in to worship, and a person's like, look here. You ain't doing nothing. You just y'all just having a barbecue. Y'all just sitting up smoke signals. It just smell good. You're not doing anything. You're doing nothing. He says, for I spake not unto your fathers, nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt concerning burnt offerings or sacrifices. Here's a little doctrinal moment. This idea that the sacrificial system has an end is not a New Testament thing. The idea of the destruction of the temple to appease Yah's anger and his as a pouring out is not a new thing. He says, when I read this, it's just one of those places, those obscure places. Here we are, Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 22, don't forget it. For I spake not unto your fathers, nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt concerning offerings or sacrifices. He didn't talk nothing about the sacrificial system when he redeemed them out of Egypt. Remember when it happened? Well, he's going to tell you. He said, but let me tell you what I did command them. Y'all so caught up in this temple and these sacrifices and this barbecue, but there's no obedience and you're offering other gods. He's like, that wasn't even my original plan from the beginning. He said, what I did command them, though, but this thing I commanded them, saying, obey my voice. Shema Israel, and I will be your Elohim, and you will be my people. The sacrifices was not supposed to be a part of our relationship in this manner. That's because of your sin. He says, our relationship was obey my voice. I will be your Elohim. You will be my people, and walk you in all the ways that I command you, that it may be well unto you. That is our covenant. That's the covenant. The sacrificial system is given so that we understand the weight of our dysfunction. Our dysfunction not only costs Yah something, but it costs the community something. It costs life. That's why he gave that blood. It's a token. He's like, but you're misusing the token, so it don't work no more. This idea of the blood and that process of killing that animal and seeing that death that wasn't applied to you was supposed to keep you in line and make you understand what our relationship was supposed to be. Because guess what? As humans, Yah understands human nature because Yah created humans. He knows that we don't understand stuff impractically. So he gave something so that we could see what should have been done to us and cause us to turn away from wickedness. He was like, now y'all doing it like it's some kind of, like it's a token. You're doing it like the people when they carried the Ark of the Covenant out to battle. You're taking the things of this temple and you're treating them like the other nations treat their gods. They have these incense and they have these animals, and it's just part of going through the motion. And you're just doing it to be doing it. You're like all the other pagan nations, but guess what? You think you're doing it to me, and you're not. You're really doing it to yourself. Because the root of all other worship is because it makes you feel good. Because if it didn't make you feel good, you wouldn't do it. And you don't like doing it for Yah because you don't like him. You don't want just Yah to be pleased. You don't like how it feels. So I want to do what makes me feel good. Serving Yah don't make me feel good. Doing this to these other guys makes us feel good. We get to come and we sing and we like pour the blood out and we eat and we, then we go off and we light incense. It's like it makes you feel good. He says, okay, I told you all this. I told you, literally, obey my voice. I'll be your Elohim. You be my people. Walk you in the ways that I command you. I'm not going to lead you wrong, and it'll be well with you. But they hearkened not, nor inclined their ear, but walked in the counsels and in the imagination of their dysfunctional hearts, and went backwards and not forwards. The word here is not backwards. It is backward. It meant that they followed after their own way. And guess what? The word here is actually lifnei. It means, and you didn't come before my face. You walked beyond me. You didn't walk in my sight so I could see you and I could direct you. You went in your own way. He said, you did exactly what you wanted to do. You wanted to do it. And so, since the day that your fathers came forth out of the land of Egypt unto this day, I have sent unto you all my servants, the prophets. Does anybody remember Hamashiach saying that? Say, you kill your prophets, actually. That's what y'all good at. You don't like your prophets because you don't like Yah. That's why you're refuse. You hate his voice. Because when his prophets speak his voice, you want to kill them because you really want to kill Yah. And guess what? Y'all did. That's how jacked up the heart of man and the heart of Israel is, because guess what? Israel killed their own Elohim. The white man didn't kill their Elohim. They chose it. Their own Elohim. He said, y'all don't like it. Y'all don't like it at all. He says, I sent my prophets. I sent them. I got them up. And imagine being Jeremiah, because he's probably like, now I'm feeling it. He's like, I sent them daily, rising up early and sending them. You know what's unfortunate about this too? The job of the prophet and the priest is a very, very unfortunate position to be in, because to be chosen to be rejected is tough. But not just rejected. These people so vile, they will speak death upon you. And if they knew they could get away with it even now, they would kill you. And the prophet's reward is often rejection and death. And trusting in Elohim for a time to come. These prophets die. He says, I sent him to you. I knew what you were going to do to him. I sent them to you daily. I got them up early. So I got you. I woke you up. And then because I knew you weren't going to listen to me, I sent you a second voice, a voice in familiar form, so that when you get a confirmation of what I spoke to you, it's going to align exactly with what they say. He said, I sent them, but you didn't hearken to me. Nor inclined your ear, but you hardened your neck. They did worse than their fathers. So we look back and we say, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that. He's like, y'all do worse. They didn't want to receive correction. And they would rather that the prophet just shut up. Like, shut up and die already. Shut up and go somewhere. And what they're really saying, because remember, put your mind frame back into that Samuel. Remember when Samuel got rejected? He said, what if I stole from you? He was like, don't worry about that. They're not rejecting you, rejecting me. Therefore, Thou shalt speak all these words unto them, but they will not hearken unto thee. Imagine that being your job. I told you, like, the last couple of weeks, like when the message like is in the real world, I work with teens, and you're trying to, like, this is very important and you should care about, and they're just like, yeah, and that feeling of like, you really don't know that there's a whole world out there and you have to live a whole life, and you're basing your whole life on right now in this moment, on a moment you think is important. And you talk to your blue in the face, and they said, Yah says, but I've commanded you to speak to them. He said, but I'm gonna let you know ahead of time. They're not gonna listen. How? That's a terrible job to have. I don't care how much a person pays you. I don't care how much a person looks like, well, you got to be the prophet. Your job is to talk and literally pour out from your heart. And a person just not, and you know at the end, a person's not gonna listen to you. Part of doing the work is finding purpose in the work. The purpose in the work is the conversion of people, the changing of hearts, the changing of minds. That's what normally drives the work. But to know you're doing work and literally it's not going to go over, it's tough. He said, thou shalt also call unto them, but they ain't not going to answer. He's like, y'all going to try it too. Repeating what he said above. I called, I spoke, they didn't answer. You try it. You try it and see. Yeah, don't give up on them. All right, go ahead. You got this. You got this. And you're like, oh, they're not listening to me either. But thou shalt say unto them, this is the nation that obeyeth not the voice of Yah their Elohim, nor receiveth correction. Worse than their disobedience was their inability to be corrected. There is no worse thing on the planet than to have a lack of self-reflection and self-introspection. To feel like I'm good. I feel like I'm good. I'm good. It's like, no, you're not. You just don't know what it is. We don't know sometimes. And Yah was like, but that is worse than a person who is cognizant of what they're doing. It's worse to then think you have done nothing, or to be in a position to be corrected and then literally be like, I don't really need correction. I'm good. He was like, no, there's no helping a people who will not receive correction. In rejecting the truth of Yah, they gave themselves over to lies. You can't, it's only one thing or another. If you're not going to believe the truth, you're going to believe a lie because you're going to believe something. So he says, truth is perished and is cut off from their mouth. He's like, how are you going to speak truth? To speak truth means that you first have to be examined to speak the truth. So you got to lie. You don't have any other choice but to lie, because if you speak the truth and you don't correct it, then you know you're refuse. So then Yah goes on to say, he says, so you know what you need to do? He says, cut off your hair, O Jerusalem, and cast it away, and take up lamentation on a high place. This idea of cutting off your hair, he's like, if you don't want a covering, then take off your covering. Remember, she's a female. Then walk around bald, because that you want to wear the crown, the covering. You want to wear your hair that is your Yah-given covering, as if you're covered, but you're acting like a woman who is uncovered. So guess what? Cut off your hair and throw it away. And take up lamentations. For Yah has rejected and forsaken the generation of his wrath. He says, like, you're not covered. The other picture that this is supposed to evoke is a Nazarite. The idea of the crown. You have done something unclean. And it's not even food now. He's talking about the actual practices of an improper Nazarite. And he's saying, but you want to hold on to the hair? You need to cut the hair off your head. And you need to lament so that you can restart. At least if you cut off the hair, you see your shame and you reset the relationship. He was like, you don't even have sense enough to do that. He says, but even with it on your head, it don't matter, because you're a rejected and forsaken generation. You're a generation who is going to experience the wrath of Yah because you don't have the sense enough to be in a disposition to repent. You make excuses for yourself. He says, this is what he says. He says, you should be grieved. This should grieve you. No grief. Remember, this is all of these practices take place at the temple. Like I said, instead of bringing this lamb and this ram and this bull, you should go in there and shave off your head and start over. This nation consecrated unto Yah, who's supposed to be under covenant and covering, is operating without a covering and allowing themselves to be covered, penetrated, and experience spiritual whoredom by all of these Elohims that I told you not to follow after. And you're justifying it. Verse 30, for the children of Judah have done evil. You're like, no, what we're doing is not bad. No, you're doing evil in my sight. I see you doing it, saith Yah. They have set their abominations in the house. He was like, wait, at the gate. And he's like, look, you guys are doing evil and Yah sees it. And not only are you doing evil, but you're walking through the gates to put the evil inside of this temple. Once again, which is called by my name. Y'all don't even say it's the house of Baal. Y'all keep calling it the house of Yah. And this house shall be called the house of prayer. Greater New Bethel, tabernacle of faith and love. Like, you're just gonna you're gonna keep putting my name on it, putting my character in this place. And I have nothing to do with this. Nothing to do with it. He says, you call it by my name and then you pollute it. You're doing it on purpose. See, we don't think that when people do certain things against Yah, they're doing it on purpose. They may have reasons. They may be hurt. Yah may have not shown up for them. But when people take on a disposition, like Yah said before, he said, I know why you're doing it. You think I've done something wrong to you because I stopped doing, because you're experiencing the ramifications of your own decisions. And now I'm wrong. So guess what he says? This part right here. It's just the worst way to end. I hate that we have to go down this street, but we will. And they have built the high places of Tophet. Tophet is also Moloch, which was copper. And what they did was they heated up the hands, or they would heat it from underneath, and its hands spread out and heat it. And they would then place a child on the hands, and he would be burnt, or he or she would be burnt and mown. And then they would beat drums so that the father wouldn't hear the voice and take pity. It was called Tophet because Toph means drum, and Hinnom because of the child's moan. Namot. Literally, you had the beginning of a hard heart, and the end result was the destruction of the children. Yah sees every part of it. And he says, literally, your sin has risen up and you've turned into the other nations. You literally have created high places that you thought were out of my sight and created fire places. This particular place, Hinnom, was south of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. And it's where, and you probably have heard this before, it was literally a garbage dump with a continually smoldering fire. Where you burn trash, because obviously a community needs a place to get rid of their refuse. And this was the place where child sacrifice took place. So when people think about, people are like, well, is heaven real? Is hell real? The idea of hell actually comes from this word hinnom. Hinnom was a garbage heap. It was a trash heap where they would burn trash. They would keep it burning, but also remember trash, and there's like worms and maggots. That's where the picture of hell came from, was this place called Hinnom. And it was a place where you sent your refuse. Hell, as we've constructed it and understood it through a Western construct, right, was originally understood, Hinnom, as a rubbish place or a place of refuge where that which is cast aside was burned. It's the place where something that has no use is hauled to. What greater horror for there to be a place where Yah sends people that he finds useless. So what they did in that time was when they felt like they were not being blessed, and when the jacked up, when Yah would squeeze in, and let's say use the term, hem them in with unfavorable circumstances, so their prayers are not getting answered from their other gods, instead of seeing that as a signal of, I need to turn back to Yah, during those times they would amp up their worship. So the idea of, it's believed that it wasn't just like every day they were sacrificing children. The child sacrifice happened because they got more disobedient to Yah, and Yah would cut them off, right? And so then they would take their children and take it to the other gods as a way of doing something very, very devout to then reactivate, if you will, the blessing of the gods that they felt like was being refused. So you see what an interesting space Israel put Yah in, because it's almost like I have to destroy you because I cannot continue to allow you to proceed the whole world right now, how you're proceeding, because you somehow think that when you do what you do, I'm blessing you, but really I'm just not destroying you in the way that I could, because if I hem you in, you'll kill your kids. You see how like convoluted that is? Where Yah just has to let things kind of play out. So you're like, why are the wicked blessed? You don't know what people will do. And you don't know how Yah is protecting the innocent. Look, this is what they do. You've seen what they do. That's what they would do. So it was like a tantrum, if you will. And so Yah was like, not doing this. I'm going to destroy you all, because that's what was in their heart. So Yah is literally having the prophet preach. And guess what? He hasn't destroyed them. Get it? He's literally giving them time, and they're still doing this stuff because he's like, I know what y'all gonna do. You know who suffers at the end of this? The babies. You guys, when I start pressing in, remember the verses, you're going to start devouring your own children. You're going to get so extreme with your practices that you are going to literally begin slicking the path to your own destruction. This is how you're going to respond when Babylon comes. You're going to think, now it's time to heat up the hands of Moloch and kill these babies. You're going to literally create the worst idea of a perfect storm ever, because you're not going to repent. I was telling you that a lot of people believe that literally this was rare, but in 2 Kings chapter 16, verse 3, Ahaz, king of Israel, sacrificed his own son. Literally killed his own son. And they believe that this began to happen during the days of Manasseh, when children were sacrificed to the gods of Canaan. Remember, Manasseh is Josiah's grandfather. Yah says, this thing you guys are doing, you're going to burn your sons and daughter in the fire. He says, I commanded you not to do this, neither did it ever come into my heart. Here's another doctrinal nugget. People go, didn't Yah tell Abraham to kill Isaac? Maybe the people are misinterpreting what they saw there, and they're showing their devotion. Tell you people, just tell you. So Genesis chapter 22, where Yah says literally not to do that. That was never, ever the intention of what Yah was doing with. Yah never intended for Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. It was literally a test of his devotion, and to not misinterpret the scripture or the cultural context. Literally, he stops him before he does it. Because if Yah wanted to just prove something, right, he could have just resurrected him after he killed him and said, see, if you kill your kid, I'll give him back to you. That wasn't the picture. That wasn't the picture at all. He was like, will you give up everything for me? And we could peradventure and go all the way to say that maybe Abraham kind of misunderstood Yah. He said, bring the boy up to the mountain to worship. Bring me your only son. Give him over to me. He was like, I guess I got to kill him. He was like, no, don't. That's the other nation's practices. We don't do that. Yah was like, I don't need a single human to ever sacrifice to me. He's like, first of all, Rabbi Shaul says, he said, you are living sacrifices. I want you to live in obedience. What good is it if you die? If that was the case, and everybody, when it got rough, just go ahead and kill yourself. Sacrifice yourself. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, no, I want you to give over your will to me. He says, and just in case, after all that, you're like, Yah was like, I'm going to say it right here. This part should be in red again. He says, which I commanded them not. No, neither came it into my heart, which also means, and you can research this now, the burden of proof will be back on you. Then Yah would not choose someone else to die for him. He would do it himself. If he doesn't believe in human sacrifice, and that's not what he's asking anybody to do, then guess what? Then I will prepare for myself a body. I'm going to do the redemptive work because I don't believe that any human is supposed to be sacrificed, and that never came into my heart. I will provide for myself a lamb. Genesis 22. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yah, that it shall be no more called Tophet, nor the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. For they shall bury in Tophet till there be no place, and the carcasses of this people shall be meat for the fowls of heaven and for the beasts of the earth, and none shall fray them away. That means that literally they'll just eat and nobody's going to shoo them away from eating it. Then will I cause to cease from the cities of Judah and from the streets of Jerusalem the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness and the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, for the land shall be desolate. We get a better understanding of the judgment of Yah and why Yah does judgment the way he does when we take time and look at what's happening. When you look at Yah's judgment from a viewpoint of this thing is happening and Yah's allowing it, or this, it messes it up. But when you watch and you see the human condition and the human heart and the human response to love and beckoning, you then get a full understanding of this idea of Hinnom, this idea of hell, this idea of being refused. Yah was like, look at them. Look at what they're doing. Like, really, in reality, which is hard and difficult because we love, we should call for Yah's judgment. Call for Yah's judgment so that people understand where their destruction is coming from and the severity of their condition. because literally the practices of idolatry take away from a person. I was having a conversation recently with a family member. We were talking about will, like the free will and choice. And the idea that trauma, because idolatry is trauma, he said, you're doing it to your own ruin. Making choices and putting Yah as your opposition is dangerous. And what it does is the more you get taken into a situation that is traumatic or that takes that that goes against the will of Yah, whether by your own choice or somebody else takes you there, it takes away your ability to activate that part of you that chooses something different. You begin to feel that the wrong is normal. Dysfunction becomes normal, and you begin to operate in it. And then the will, the free will, the living, activated part of us that was given to us to be infinite and limitless begins to be debited a little bit more. Sin literally pulls that out. And when we're left in this body, and when Yah breaks open the earthen vessel, there's nothing left. There's nothing left for him to then give back to you. You've squandered it. You've squandered the gift of actually being alive, because you literally said, you know what, I'm gonna give a little bit here to this sin, and I'm gonna give a little bit here to this abomination. I'm gonna give a little bit here to this God. And you took, like the parable of the talent, what was invested in you and wasted it. And you never had sense enough in this life to turn back to the source, like the prodigal son, and say, I've wasted my inheritance and I'm returning home. And I want to be like you, Father. I hated you at one time. And I took what you gave me, which was this life, and I squandered it. You're never regenerated. You never have a fresh portion poured back in. So then really, in all honesty, when you go to hell as nothing. And to never be thought of by Yah or considered ever again, to only suffer in that state of your own choosing. Because Yah had prophets rise early, and Yah is speaking, and whatever we're holding on to is just too hard to let go of. So then we let that eat and fester and grow and literally tear us apart to where we become the worm-ridden, maggot-filled trash, only left to be discarded. That's what the adversary wants. I want to fester, and I want to tear up the inside. I want you to continue to seek these other gods. I want you to take your children down that path. Make your children refuse too. And then the end result is what? Desolation and destruction. And a Yah who doesn't even hear the prayers of the people anymore. It's a terrible, terrible place to be. And it's a terrible chapter, unfortunately. And we're only at the beginning. And when you look out in the world, unfortunately, I'm beginning to understand a man by the name of Charles Spurgeon. He said his mother was talking about sin, and he was just, kids being kids or a young man being a young man. And she says, continue down the path you're continuing down. She said, I just want you to know that when Yah calls you to the judgment and refuses you, my response will be, amen. And for him, that idea of your own mother agreeing with your condemnation was enough. How much more so then, knowing that there will be no pleading with Yah because he's tried to plead with us already. People saying they don't hear from Yah, I didn't know. It's not true. I tell you guys all the time, either they lying or Yah lying, and I ain't never gonna call Yah lying. Yeah, it's like, I'm speaking to people. I'm speaking to my people. I'm still speaking to people. I still have prophets rising up. And he's like, the reality is they don't want to hear. And they'll stand in my face and say, I have been delivered to do this. This is what today is. This is what people are doing nowadays. You think Yah is so stuck in the past that he hasn't evolved and he doesn't understand? Yah was like, it ain't even about evolution. It ain't about understanding. This world and this simulation has nothing to do with any of that, actually. Every generation is still me and you. I don't care how many times the game changes. When every human arrives here, there's only one task. Keep the connection between you and your Elohim. And you would think as the world gets more wicked, it would be easier, right? Before it was like so close, like everybody seemed kind of good. Everybody kind of went to church and everybody's kind of doing the same thing. Now it's like polar opposite. You looking and you're like, it's kind of easy actually to choose between good and bad because nobody gives a dang about anything functional. Everything is dysfunctional. 1 + 1 doesn't even equal 2 anymore. You're transferring uteruses into men. Like, this is the world we live in now. It's not that hard to see that they are working that which is unseemly, and you can choose to do things along the ancient path, along the tried and true path. It's giving dysfunction. It's giving blatant dysfunction. It's giving tree in the midst of the garden. And it's giving that one, that exact one, don't eat from it. It's giving a simple test. And we're giving failure. It's really easy. And we wonder and we think back, we're like, why? How could they just, it was just food. They could have just, But we're watching people every day literally see a tree of function and dysfunction, a mixture, a corrupt expression of what came out of the ground. And it's placed right in front of you, not hidden. It wasn't a tree hidden in the midst of other trees. No, it was a dead center. And you choose death. I'm zealous about how people feel about my Elohim. Because I realize that people make choices. Yah chooses for nobody. Everybody has an opportunity to choose. But what happens is the more you participate in dysfunction, the harder it is to make the choice. And the adversary knows that. But I believe that Yah is rising early and speaking to people, and they're choosing to reject. And so in a world that's falling at a rapid pace and it's happening all around us, then where's the constant? Where's the constant? The constant is Yah. The constant is Yah and his unwavering love. But it's not a love that you don't have to choose. You have to choose to be loved. And when we experience such high levels of dysfunction, it's hard to accept love because you don't feel like you're worthy of it, because you're not really, not of Yah's love. But he's like, I didn't ask you to be worthy. I asked you to respond. And that's where we are. That's just where we are. That's Jeremiah 7. Sorry, I didn't write it. But I hope in those spaces and in those nuggets that we refuse to be refused. How about that? We refuse to be found rubbish. We refuse to be found detached from the source. And we constantly return back. Yah knew all of this about them. Literally, and he said, but guess what? If you just do what you were supposed to be doing, walk the way you're supposed to be walking, I'll forget all of it. How about that? Knowing all that, knowing, literally Moloch and cakes to the Queen of Heaven, burning incense to Baal, murder, theft, lying, breaking all the commandments. And he was like, but if you stop right now, I'll let you stay forever. It's such an unfair deal. He's like, give me garbage for a diamond. Give me your raggedy self for everlasting life. Just give me you, right the way you are. Just give me you all the way. And I got you from there. I'll do all the rest. It's too easy. The choice is way too easy. It's the desires of our heart that make it difficult. So my prayer is that we refuse the garbage and accept what Yah has for us.